Hey guys, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for joining me on the first episode of Courtship Code. I am your host, Zara J, and bringing to you Black Muslim Single Society very own podcast. Yes, we have a podcast now to make it super convenient for those of you who have been following us for the last couple years, reading our blogs and our content online. We wanted to present to you a very easy and convenient way to get that information without having to take the time to read. So if you're on your way to work, if you're coming from work, at your desk, at home, cooking, cleaning, chilling, minding your business, whatever you're doing, please ask you to continue to tune in, share with your friends, with your family members, anyone who would love to get the goods. So Black Muslim Single Society, for those of you who don't know, you can go to blackmuslimsinglesociety.com, but we provide matchmaking and event services for the Black Muslim community in the United States. Now, by Black Muslim community, that's not solely African American, just to put that out there, because sometimes there's a little confusion around that. We do cater to the entire African diaspora in the United States, but we try to bridge that gap and make it a little bit easier. So you can go to meet somebody, of course, for marriage purposes. So you can go to our website. Again, that's blackmuslimsinglesociety.com to get a little bit more info about that. But this here podcast is going to be focused on topics and information pertaining to single life, courtship, and matchmaking from the Muslim perspective. And it's super important to have opportunities like this where we do discuss things from a Muslim perspective in a very candid way, in a very practical way, because a lot of times people need advice that they can implement. People need things that they can relate to, and information that's also positive and going to get them from A to B. So hoping to stick some of that landing with this here podcast and help to provide you guys with some information and services that will be beneficial to you, inshallah. So today, we're going to be discussing the scarcity mentality. Now, this is a topic that's very dear to me because the scarcity mentality really helped to motivate me into creating Black Muslim Single Society from the start, which for those of you who've been following since 2015, originally it was called Zara J Matchmaking, had to rebrand and change that to Black Muslim Single Society for other purposes. We could talk about that another time. But that whole scarcity mentality is really what motivated me. Just seeing the frustration and the mindset that a lot of people were suffering from, both men and women in the Muslim community, and me just fully not being able to understand why was it so much more difficult? Why were people having such a hard time? Why have, I guess, relationships in the Muslim community been such a struggle for so many people? I mean, at one point in time, I wasn't always Muslim, right? So for me, relationships were fun, right? Dating was fun. Meeting the opposite sex was fun and exciting. It wasn't stressful. It wasn't pressure. It wasn't something where it was like a burden, but all of a sudden, not just, for women that I was seeing, but even for the men that I was observing, whether it's close friends or people from a distance, this heavy burden of marriage, this heavy burden of dealing with the opposite sex became an extreme point of frustration, depression, negativity, right? Negative mindsets, all this other stuff. That was just like, wow, what the heck is going on here? We need to do something because I don't want to be a part of this. And we need something positive going on here to make it easier. It shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't be this difficult and this stressful, right? So back to the topic at hand, the scarcity mentality. So what exactly is the scarcity mentality? The scarcity mentality is so prevalent in the Muslim community that it's something that really has to be undone, addressed. And if you are someone who, identifies with the scarcity mentality, or you have been struggling with balancing or getting out of the scarcity mentality, I really need you to listen closely to this podcast to understand what it is, what it looks like, how to identify if that's you. And then towards the end, I'm going to wrap things up with giving you 3 ways to combat it. So make sure that you listen to this full podcast, because I'm not just going to talk to you about it. I'm also going to give you some information on how to re-shift your mind around this scarcity mentality. Now, the scarcity mentality often shows up in 2 different ways, right? It either shows up in people who have a withdrawal mindset, which I'm going to explain what that is, or people that have just a true scarce mentality. Like, there's just not enough, right? There's no one out there, options are slim, pickings are slim, that whole type of mindset, right? So one is a mindset of lack, and the other one is a mindset of withdrawal, or, not enough resources, basically, right? So let's talk about that first mindset, okay? So those who struggle with scarcity around the concept of withdrawals. And sorry if I talk fast. I am from up north, so I do talk a little fast, but just bear with me for a second. So if you have a withdrawal mindset, right? That means that when you are considering people for marriage, or when you're courting someone, or even before that, right? Before you even meet someone, you already have a very negative mindset about taking someone else on, adding someone else to your life, right? You might have this mindset around adding a man or woman to your life. You might particularly have this mindset maybe if it comes to a partner with children, or a partner with an elderly parent, or a partner with anything going on that you look at as quote unquote baggage. Which, by the way, a person who has a withdrawal mindset, they typically have a very hard time identifying their own quote unquote baggage. And I really hate that word, because I think it's a very ugly word, honestly. But we're just going to use the word baggage because most people understand what that word means when we put it into context. So they have a mindset that by adding anyone else on, something in their life is being subtracted, right? So that's what they focus on, or that might be what you focus on, right? So when you add someone to your life, that's less money for you, that's less time for you, that's less space in your home, that's less freedom that you have, that's less peace that you have. Every single thing around adding to your life comes from a place of subtraction. You cannot fully wrap your head around the good in this person. You can't fully wrap your head around the value that someone else has, or how they're going to be benefiting your life. You can only focus on the withdrawals, right? There's no deposits there, right? Like, you might see 1 deposit for every 4 withdrawal, but it's a huge imbalance in your mind. And that's not so much about the other person, because I'm more than sure that you have probably met plenty of valuable people, plenty of people who have amazing traits, who have amazing things to share with you and can add value to your life in one way or another. But either you're out of touch with your own value system, or you're super in touch with a withdrawal mindset. So you're constantly looking and picking apart people, right? Because you are looking for a reason not to commit. You're looking for a reason to feel like you don't have enough, right? When you're focused on the withdrawals versus the deposit that someone makes in your life, you are constantly focused on a lack of resources, right? You do not have enough. You suffer from a lack of resources, whether that's monetary resources, spiritual resources, emotional resources, whatever area that is in your life. You will always feel like adding someone else on is going to be a whole bunch of weight in your life. And that's a really, really negative way to think. And it's all about scarcity, right? So in your mind, it's scarce. Everything about you is scarce. You as a person are scarce, right? There's not enough of you to go around, basically. There's not enough of you to share with someone else. So if that's you, I'm going to give you some information on how to combat that. But you got to deal with that, right? You might need to go to some therapy. You might need to do some spiritual healing, some emotional healing. You need to figure out what is the root of this scarce mentality. Do you have a vulnerability issue? Do you have a trust issue, right? Why is it that you say that you want marriage, or you want companionship, or you want to have a family, or you want to have children, but everything around those topics comes from you missing out on something? I remember years ago, when my sister, and I hope she's not listening to this podcast because I'm about to tell some business, but I remember years ago when my kids were really little, and I had just had my son. Let's say my son was probably about 1 or 2 years old. And I remember being in my sister's apartment because she was about to babysit. And I had just bought my son some brand new Jordans, right? Now, mind you, he's probably not even 2 yet, right? Probably like 1, maybe a year and a half or so. We don't wear Jordans anymore. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But I remember my son had these brand new Jordans on his feet. And my sister, who didn't have any children at the time, wasn't married at the time, still not. She still doesn't have any children or anything. You know, may Allah bless her with marriage and a child. But I remember her saying to me that she couldn't see how I could spend, money on Jordans for a child, right? Now, mind you, these sneakers are probably like $30 or so because he's like a baby. But she's like, I can't see myself spending that money on a child, and I would rather spend that money on me. And, I could put that towards a pocketbook or something else versus putting that on a child's foot. Now, mind you, if you don't want children or you don't want to have anyone else in your life, then by all means continue with that mentality. But if you say that you want it, right? If you say that you want certain things, but then you see your resources as scarce, you see yourself as scarce, and you're like, I cannot share this because this could be for me. It's going to take away from me if I decide to give it to someone else. Then you got to fix that, boo. Like, it's not going to work, right? That's not going to work. There's no way you're going to be able to enter a relationship with that mentality, because even if you do get married, right? Let's say you find this person who's going to match your crazy, and I'm teasing right now, but let's just say you find someone who's going to match your crazy, right? And then you get into this marriage, and now all of a sudden you have to combine resources, right? You have to combine your time. You have to find a way to bring things together. Not everything is going to be combined. Not everything's going to be totally together, but you are going to have to figure out a way to create win-win situations. And if everything in your mindset is on losing, then there's absolutely no way you're going to be able to benefit another person, because you're not going to be able to identify their value. You're only going to be able to identify their deposits. And so you're also not going to be capable of fully adding value to them as well. So first thing with that scarcity mentality is get rid of the withdrawal mindset. The second thing, which is really, the bigger topic that I wanted to talk about today, is the mindset of scarcity when it just comes from a total lack thereof, right? So unfortunately, there's these marriage myths that have been put out into the Muslim community, and I'm going to touch on that in another podcast. Because that's a very, very dear topic to my heart, these marriage myths, because working with matchmaking, doing events in the Muslim community, I see how these marriage myths show up in people's lives. I see the horrible damage that it does to people's self-esteem, the damage that it does to them being able to make good choices and being able to do what's right for them. And this almost like guilt trip and these myths that are put onto people to make them kind of just comply, right? Particularly women in the Muslim community. But like I said, that's a whole nother podcast for another day. And inshallah, you'll stay tuned and continue to follow these podcasts so we can discuss this. And another thing, feel free to slide in the DM for blackmuslimsinglesociety.com to get feedback on this podcast to let me know some topics that you would like to discuss, some things you would like to be addressed. And you can also follow me personally on Instagram at _ZaraJ_. So back to the scarcity mentality. The scarcity mentality, right? That there's not enough, right? There's not enough people out there. You don't know the next time that opportunity is going to come around. It's not going to happen. It's no good men. It's no good women. The pickings are slim. Oh my gosh. Like, it's the most draining thing to hear, right? And I just personally don't believe in scarcity, right? I do not believe in scarcity, because for me to believe in scarcity means that I believe that my Lord does not have something for me, right? So if I believe I'm not going to do matchmaking because there's not enough people that's going to support it, that's me saying to myself that I don't believe that Allah is going to make this business a success. If I believe, there's not enough, there's too many people in this lane, so I might as well not even bother. Or there's too much, there's not enough money out here, so I might as well not even bother. Whatever that mindset is that you may be suffering from, or maybe the people around you might be suffering from, because your tribe does determine your vibe, and you have to be very mindful of the people that you surround yourself with. And if you're going to surround yourself with people who carry a lot of negative mindsets around courtship, marriage, or the opposite sex, then you need to know how to block that negativity before it hits your ears so you don't absorb it. But when you have this negative mindset, right, that the pickings are slim, it's not enough out here, there's no good men, there's no good women, all that's out here is this, all that's out here is that. When you embody that, right, that's you creating a belief system around scarcity, right? And we all know the power of having a strong belief system, right? If you have a weak belief system, you're going to make weak actions. If you have a strong belief system, you're going to take strong actions. So when you have a negative belief system around courtship, around the opposite sex, around marriage, you're going to make negative moves, right? You're going to make decisions from a place of disbelief, from a place of action, whether that's showing up by you rejecting people that might be good for you, whether that's showing up in you moving out of desperation. That might be showing up by you not moving at all. Or maybe you're moving with people you shouldn't be moving with, right? But however that shows up for you is going to show up because you're acting out of scarcity. So let's just say that you're making moves out of desperation, right? And we've all seen this. Some of you may have made this action, right? Where I'm just going to go ahead and marry the first person that wants to marry me. Not because I genuinely feel like this is going to be the best decision for me, and because I genuinely like this person, I believe in this person, but because, one, I just want to be married, right? And I'm not saying that's a negative thing. Mashallah, I think that that's a beautiful thing. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think it's something that we should appreciate more and honor more in people who have good intentions to be married, and respect those people and try to help them get to where they want to go. But when you are making a decision from a place of, let me just go do this because I don't know the next time somebody's going to come around that's going to want to marry me. Let me just do this because I just want to be married so badly. I don't even want this person to consult with my wali. I don't even want to get an STD test. I don't even want to talk about finances. I don't want to do anything that might run this person off. And there might be a chance that if everything doesn't go right, that this might not work out. So I don't even want to get to the bottom of things. I don't even want to do premarital counseling. I want to hurry up and rush to get married or rush to get intended, because if I don't, this might slip through my fingers, right? So that's acting out of desperation. That's what's acting out of desperation. I've heard other people, think that people are desperate because they go to marriage events, or they're desperate because they tell people that they want to get married. That's nonsense. That's not desperation. That's fulfilling your duties and trying to get your goal. That is being proactive. Desperation is making choices from a place that if I try to do the right thing, or if I try to make sure I'm doing the right thing, that this might slip through my fingers. So I gotta hold on to it. I gotta cling to it. I gotta smother it. I gotta grab it by the collar, or else it's going to get away from me. Right? That's acting out of desperation. And you only do that when you think with a scarcity mentality and you feel like opportunity will slip through your fingers if you don't grab it by the chokehold right now. Like right now. The other way that scarcity shows up is depression and a lack of motivation. So you might start to feel really depressed, right? Because you're feeling like there's nobody out there. The pickings are slim. There's no good women out here. All women are just about money. All men are just about looks and sex. And there's really no good options. So I'm not even going to bother. I'm not even going to try. I'm not going to tell people I want to get married. I'm not going to keep getting back on the horse. I'm not going to approach anyone. I'm not going to go to marriage events. I'm not going to sign up for matchmaking. I'm not going to do matrimonial sites. I ain't doing a thing to push me closer to the goal that I say that I have. Because one, I feel entitled as if I shouldn't have to do it. And two, in my mind, I don't really feel like it's going to work anyway. I don't really feel like there's anyone out there for me. And so I'm just going to sit here and soak in my tears and complain and embody all this negative energy. And I'm not just going to embody it for myself. I'm going to put that negative energy out into the atmosphere for others as well. I'm going to make sure that I tell all of my friends and my family that there aren't any good options out there, so they can be on my train as well. I need everybody to take on this belief system, and I'm going to be the belief ringleader for the negative mindset that there's nothing out there, because I don't want anyone to be motivated. I want everyone to be on the same boat as me. So if that's you, I need you to pause, take a break from that, because that's not going to get you closer to your goal. And you might be saying this on the outside, but on the inside, you really feel really bad, right? You may be able to keep up this ain't no good, all that type of stuff, right, on the outside. Or you might be able to go see your brothers and be like, these sisters, whatever, right? But really, how you feel on the inside is you feel really sad. You feel down. You wonder, why hasn't this happened to you? How come it's not working for you? When are you going to meet the person that you really want? So really, you feel depressed about the topic of courtship or the topic of marriage or the opposite sex internally. But on the outside, you spit venom in order to create this exterior, in order to deflect from the fact that you feel like your options are scarce. You feel like the quality that you're attracting is scarce, and you feel like the options that you have are scarce. And you might be one of these people who try to pretend like you have all the options in the world and you have endless options, but you probably have a lot of options that aren't options. And that's the reason why you feel like it's scarce. Because if you really believed you had a lot of options, and you really believe that there's plenty out there, you wouldn't have a scarce mentality. You wouldn't have a negative outlook on marriage, relationships, or the opposite sex. But when you have a negative mindset around it, it's really because you feel like your options aren't available, or the people that you may want as an option aren't available to you. So how do you combat this? Right? So what are some things that you can do? So I'm going to give you just 3 really quick things that you can implement literally right now. Like right now, as soon as you finish this podcast, you can implement all of these things so that you can start working on changing your mindset around it. These are just 3 basic things. There are a lot more things that you can do. And like I said, we have so many topics to talk about in the future because I don't want to hold up too much of your time. But the first thing that you can do is utilize that good old 80-20 rule, right? Everybody loves the 80-20 rule. Why do you need this? Well, if you're the type of person who thinks in the mindset of withdrawals, if you're always looking at how someone's going to be taking away from your life or how much of a burden things are going to be. You need to start focusing on the good, right? Take the good and leave the bad. That's what we're taught to do as Muslims. Take the good and leave the bad. So you need to be focusing on the good that people offer, right? How can this person benefit my life? Not how are they going to be taken away? What type of baggage do they have? How are they going to hurt me? But what traits, what qualities, what skills, what values do they have that is going to add to my life, right? Do they have more good than bad? Does their good outweigh their bad? And that makes a big difference on commitment as well, right? Being able to look at someone and feel like, look, your good outweighs your bad, so I'm going to stick it through. I'm going to commit to the process. I'm going to commit to marriage, commit to moving forward because I see the good in you, right? So if this person is 80% good, right, then give it a real shot. Give it a real opportunity because you're always going to be able to find flaws. You're always going to be able to pick out baggage and things that you don't like. And honestly, the longer that you court a person, the more flaws just going to start hanging out. I mean, it's just what it is. After the first 3 months, when that oxytocin starts wearing down and it's not keeping you on that high anymore, and you have passed that first 3 months of infatuation of that person, yeah, the flaws are going to start hanging out, right? They're going to start rocking out and they'll be all up in your face, right? Flaws all in your face. But you have to be able to look past that and be like, okay, but how much good does this person offer? You know, can this person benefit my life? And focus on the good. Focus on the things that you do like and not the things that you don't like. I can't even tell you how many people, alhamdulillah, they made it down the altar, right? They made it down the masjid and they decided to commit to marriage. But I cannot even tell you how many people I've had to coach in this process or get in their ear or talk to them like, listen, but what are the things that you do like about this person? But what are the things that you do admire? You know, focus on that. Yes, you do want to pay attention to red flags. Yes, you do want to take note and you want to have deep conversations about those red flags. But stop making excuses if you feel like they have more good to offer you than they have bad. The number 2 thing is, if you have a scarcity mentality, is to focus on getting more exposure. And I'll be dropping more information about this in the future on things that you can do exactly to get more exposure. But you need more exposure. If you are sitting in your house all the time and you never have the opportunity to meet with other Muslims, if you don't have Muslim friends, because a lot of people do not have Muslim friends, a lot of people do not have Muslim family, even if they come from a Muslim family, a lot of people do not have Muslim social circles. Right? So if you do not have Muslim social circles, if you do not have Muslim friends, if you are not active in your community, if you are not doing anything to meet people locally, preferably, but even if you're doing long distance, if you're not putting yourself in the position and being proactive to meet people, then that means that you are not going by your word. That means that you say that you want something, but you're not actually willing to do anything about it. So you have to figure out, how are you going to get more exposure? And I understand that some people live in places where they don't have high exposure to other Muslims, right? If you live in the South, if you live in the Midwest, parts of California especially, it can be really difficult to get exposure to other Muslims, especially like if you're outside of that East Coast area where there's like a heavy concentration of Muslims from like New York down to Virginia. Like there's tons of Muslims, right? But once you get outside of that pocket, it can be a lot more difficult to meet eligible men and women. So you're going to have to really put your head into it and think about, how are you going to get yourself more exposure? That might mean you might have to travel. That might mean you might have to go to some marriage events. That might mean that you're going to have to, sign up for matrimonial sites. Get over your ego and focus on the goal, right? When you have options, you don't feel like you're optionless. When you have options, you won't feel depressed or a lack of motivation because you know that you can keep moving forward. When you have options, you feel confident about making a good decision for you. You will not make a decision out of desperation, like, let me just take what I can get because I don't know the next time I'm going to get it. You're going to be able to confidently ask the deeper questions about how this is going to work and formulate a plan, and not going to a situation completely blind. So I need you to get more exposure so that you can make moves in confidence. Number 3, the last thing that I'm going to give for you guys today is to start having honest conversations and ask questions with couples that you know. Right now, this is really important because 1, this is community building. And number 2, it's going to give you a deeper insight. I feel like in the Muslim community, there's this whole fairy tale image of marriage that's sold to people, which people find usually gets shattered very quickly, right? And reality sets in about expectations and what things are really like. But I feel like there's not enough conversation around courtship, around what it was like to get married for the average Muslim, right? So there's always this concentration on 2 groups of Muslims. You have the concentration on the Muslims who got married super young, and usually they come from Muslim families, and not always, but often. They got married super young, let's say between the ages of 17 to 24, right? And now they've been married for 20 or 30 years. They've never been with anybody but each other. They have 4 or 5 kids together. Life is grand, and everything worked out perfectly, right? And those are like the icons of the community. Those are the people that everyone's like, this is what marriage is. This is what marriage looks like. Mind you, you have no clue what has been going on in that marriage. Another topic. But this is how it's supposed to be sold, right? This is what marriage is supposed to look like. This is what courtship is supposed to look like. You meet somebody, you like them, you get married, and everything works out, and you never have to get married ever again. You never have to meet anyone else, right? Ideally, that's how it will go down for the common person, but it doesn't, right? That is the minority, right? So you can't focus on the minority. I'm sorry, minorities are good examples, but they're not the ones that you have to focus on, because you're going to only do more damage to yourself if you're not focused on the average experience versus focusing on the best of all, right? You want the best experience, so it's a good example, but you have to look at the practical situations. Then the other example that's always thrown around the community is that couple who they knew each other for 2 weeks, maybe they knew each other for 30 days, and they got married. And alhamdulillah, they've been married for 10 or 15 years and everything's perfect. And they never had to worry about an extensive courtship or meeting multiple people or anything, right? They just met that person, and in 2 weeks, they were married. Life is good, and that's the end, right? Alhamdulillah for those people. Those are beautiful stories. Those are beautiful examples of what could happen, right? Those are the fairy tales. But that's not the average experience for most men and women. Most men and women go years being single. Most men and women go through several courtships. They go through several ups and downs, heartbreaks. They go through, droughts, right? They go through periods of time of not being able to meet someone that they feel compatible with. Maybe they have to move around. Maybe they're going through different financial things, family issues, whatever that is, right? They're going through different things where it's not as easy for them, right? So for those other beautiful examples, marriage is not their test, right? And that's okay. But for this whole other group of people, getting married is their test, right? Because there's something that they need to learn about themselves in that process. So it's no different than someone who struggles with hijab versus someone who doesn't. Someone who struggles with sex versus someone who doesn't. Someone who struggles with alcohol versus someone who doesn't, right? Everyone has their different struggles. So you can't always look at the best of examples as that's going to be how your situation will be, or put yourself under the pressure or feeling really stressed and negative because you didn't have that same love story, right? Everyone is writing their own love story, right? Everyone's writing their own love story. Your love story is unique to you. But what you need to do is sit down with couples in the community, multiple couples, right? And start having really candid, honest conversations about what was it like for you? What was your experience like, right? Because by doing that and having some real conversations, you're going to find out some real stuff about what's really going on in a community, and ask those people to be honest and open and candid, right? This is a very vulnerable conversation. But the more you talk to people, the more you get to know, like, oh, wait, this sister was single for 6 years before she got married. This brother, he had a couple really bad, heartbreaking situations before he found the sister that he wanted to settle down with. You're going to start seeing the trial and the error that people go through and the growth that they have to go through to learn more about themselves to get them over that hump. But as long as you keep having these really fantasy outlooks on things, you're going to feel like this is just you, right? And you're going to create, again, a negative mindset and a disbelief system around courtship and marriage, because everything is from the lens of it's no one for you, it's nothing for you, it's not enough, and just bad experiences. Right? So those are 3 tips, and I'm going to read them to you really quickly again. That's the 80-20 rule. That's get more exposure and to start having honest, candid conversations with people around you to really learn what courtship looks like in the Muslim community. So that's it for today, guys. Oh, one more thing. If you are listening to this podcast, inshallah, I have a special invite for you to join Black Muslim Single Society. You can put your profile in the system using this discount code to save you $10 on a basic profile listing. And that code is AUGLOVE, right? AUGLOVE, like short for August, AUGLOVE. And that code is going to be good until the end of August. So make sure if you do not have your profile in the system, use that code, all caps, AUGLOVE. Right, you're going to go into blackmuslimsinglesociety.com and enroll in a basic profile listing membership. You can do that from either the men's page or the women's page. By doing that, we're going to get you in our system. You're going to fill out the background intake application. You're going to submit 3 pictures of yourself, and you're going to do a 30-minute interview where our profile coordinator will put together a profile for you and keep you listed in our system for 24 months. So we know that you're available, right? This is like number 2, right? Getting yourself in a position to get some exposure. So if you want to do that, again, you'll save $10 on the profile listing membership. That'll make it only $29 to have your profile built. And that'll be a 24-month commitment from you. That's a one-time fee. It's just a one-time fee. And that discount code is AUGLOVE. Make sure that you guys tune in. Inshallah, we'll be dropping these once a week, preferably on Mondays, to make it our Match Monday for you guys. Let me know what content you would like. You can go to blackmuslimsinglesociety.com and send us a message, or you can contact us on Instagram, blackmuslimsinglesociety.com, and let us know what you think about the show so far, what topics you would like to hear, have informational or be discussed. We will also be doing a live Q&A on Fridays on our Instagram page, so make sure that you follow on Instagram for that live Q&A for any questions that you might have about matchmaking or Muslim single life, and we will discuss it there. And again, you can follow me on my personal Instagram page at _ZaraJ_, and I will talk to you soon, inshallah. Have a great day. Assalamu alaikum.
The podcast you just heard was published with Anchor. Got something you want to say to the creator of this show? Send them a voice message using the Anchor app, free for iOS and Android.